What's up guys, welcome back to Aquatic Elements. As you can see next to me, today we are doing a video all on this absolutely stunning lagoon reef tank. Now this tank has actually been sort of custom built. The aquarium itself was actually custom built by someone, and the cabinet has all been sort of custom done as well. We've got a sump in there. We've got two AI Hydra 26 HD lights, which have also been made on a sort of custom floating shelf as well. Now today we're going to cover the tank, the filtration, and then we're going to go on to the inhabitants as well. Now I appreciate this is different content to what we usually post on the channel. We are moving away a bit from fancy goldfish, but don't worry, in the next episode we're actually going to be heading outside and looking at an absolutely stunning ranchu pond, so be sure to stay tuned for that one. So first of all, as you can see, we have the display tank. Now this is more of a lagoon style system. The depth of the tank is around 30 centimeters, is around 45 centimeters front to back, and then the total length is around 110 centimeters. Now we've got a central weir in the back of the system which flows down into the sump area, and we'll cover that in just a second. You can see we've got some substrate, we've got two sort of island escapes, but before we go into the livestock, the corals, the invertebrates and the fish, let's have a look downstairs at the sump area. So now I've opened the cabinet doors, we can see into the sump area. So the water first travels down into this first section here, where we have a Reef Octo or Reef Octopus skimmer, which is super silent to run and doing an absolutely great job, as you can see, removing all of this skimmate from the water. Now for those of you who don't know, skimmers use a combination of water and high quality small air bubbles to remove DOCs, otherwise known as dissolved organic compounds or dissolved organic carbons, from the water. This rises up into the skimmer cup and then is collected, which you can manually dispose of. The water then travels from this initial section into the second section, where we've got a refugium. Now a refugium is basically an algae bed or a large planted area within the sump where nutrients can be removed, being nitrates or phosphates. This removes these nutrients naturally. It also provides a nice home for live foods such as copepods and amphipods, which are then pumped into the display for the fish and corals to consume. It's a really nice natural method at removing these nutrients from the water. It also stabilizes pH. You will run this in a reverse light cycle, so you'll be having your lights on it at night, which helps to stabilize that pH with the photosynthesis of the macroalgae. Won't go into too much depth for this video, want to make it a little bit short and snappy, but maybe we'll cover that in a future video. We've also got some Raphos and some carbon in a bag as well, and then that travels into the last section, where we've got some biomedia. This is obviously our cleanest section of the sump, and we want that biomedia to be kept as clean as possible. Now the rocks within the display tank do act as that home and housing for bacteria as well. This is live rock, or it was once dead rock and became live rock, and it's a really porous structure housing huge numbers of bacteria to process that ammonia down into nitrite and then down into nitrate. We've then got a J-Cod or J-Bow return pump, which is on a sort of variable flow, so that can be adjusted to the needs of the flow through that sump system. And then finally we've got an emergency overflow in this last section, just in case the main overflow was to block. Water can then travel safely down into the sump without having that main display overflow and flooding your room. Finally, that's the sump section. We've also got an auto top up or an ATO. This is essentially where water evaporates from the tank, evaporates out of the top or out of the sump, and that water obviously is just pure H2O. The salt concentration stays within the system, and as that water evaporates out, this automatically tops it up, keeping that salinity at a solid 1.024 to 1.025 specific gravity for a reef aquarium. So that's the sump, nice and simple layout, really easy to clean. Absolutely love the use of sumps. We do have a dosing container here as well, which has all 4 reef, which is an all-in-one dosing element combo, specifically for the corals and sort of coralline algae within the system. But that's the sump area. Let's take a look back at the display and have a look at some of the amazing corals and inhabitants of this marine aquarium. As you can see, this is a complete mixed reef system. We've got a combination of LPS and soft corals. I don't believe there are any SPS, otherwise known as small polyp stony corals. They're mostly just slightly easier to keep corals in this system. Now we do have a nice selection. A couple of the corals have seen better days. There was a little bit of fighting going on in the aquarium, so you will notice a couple of the corals could look slightly better, but they, on the most part, they're doing really, really well. We've got a huge array of different soft corals, from Signalaria to toadstools, Kenya trees. What else have we got? We've got some nice zoas or some pallies as well, littered throughout the rock structure. Then moving on to our hard corals, our LPS corals, large polyp stony corals. We've got a lovely lobo. We've also got a mummy eye or gold eye chalice. And I think we've got a pavona potentially at the back there. A selection of different soft coral, mushroom corals, and basically just an array of different colours, shapes and styles. Now the owner of this tank wants the corals to sort of be easy to keep, something that's not going to be too stressful, keeping up with the water quality and specific calcium, magnesium, KH, etc. So they've opted for some slightly easier corals rather than the SPS corals, which can be a lot harder to keep and require a little bit more detail and more eye for detail within the aquarium. We've also got a little bit of macroalgae. I believe this is a Coleoptera taxifolia maybe, or Coleoptera racemosa we've got in the tank, just growing on the rock structure, providing something a little bit different. And this is actually going to be great food for a tang. We actually have a tang in the sump. You may have noticed it as I panned through the sump on that B-roll, and this is actually acclimating to the system. So he was actually asleep when I turned the light on and did wake him up, so that's why he was sort of on his side there. So before you commented saying, oh my god, there's a dead fish in the bottom, he was actually sleeping in the Coleoptera in the sump. But he has been through a 4-week quarantine process in the owner's quarantine system, and he's actually in the sump now, getting used to it. He was added to the display tank and the clowns sort of took a disliking to him, so the clowns are probably going to be sumped, left there for a couple weeks. The tang is going to go into the display, get a little bit of health on him, get a little bit of body weight on him, and then hopefully going to reintroduce the clownfish to try and break up that aggression and make sure he is nice and happy within the system. Now we've gone over the corals, let's take a look at some of the invertebrates. Now there is a cleaner shrimp within the tank, he's sort of in the back there. We also have a selection of hermits and snails. These are really, really good cleanup crew, help to keep the rocks clean and looking nice. You can tell we've got a little bit of hair algae building up in the sand bed. This is actually much better than what it was previously. And this is sort of an ongoing battle. We had a little bit of a nutrient problem, and that's why we started running that Roelphos to remove that from the system. We've also got a cowrie. I believe there's a tiger cowrie, and there is a big hermit somewhere littered in the tanks. He's probably hiding at the moment, but there's a really, really chunky hermit. So that's all the invertebrates and the corals covered. Let's take a look finally at the fish. So we've got a Mycosca wrasse pair. We've got a female and a male. We've got a yellow wrasse. Some people may call it a yellow chorus wrasse, even though it's not from the chorus wrasse family. We've also got a peacock wrasse. We've got those two clowns. I believe they might be Picassos. And then there is a copper band butterfly who's been within the system for around 4 months now. Who's eating mussels really, really well and is a really nice healthy specimen. We've also got an absolute unit of a algae blenny and then a yellow watchman goby as well. We've got 2 power heads in the display providing flow around the aquarium, and then as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, we have those 2 AI Hydra 26 HDs providing lighting to the whole system. But that's the rundown on this aquarium. If you do have any questions, leave them down below. And if you maybe keep marine fish or looking to keep marine fish in the future, feel free to just pop a question down below or let me know maybe what your favourite aspect to the tank is. Maybe something that you would change and develop on it if it was your tank at home. But that's it for today's video. As I said in episode 2, we're going to be heading outside, so that's going to come out in around 3 or 4 days. We're going to be taking a look at a stunning ranchu pond. I have featured it previously on the channel, but as it's starting to get towards summer, I thought it was time to do another visit and have a look at that. So as always, thank you all for watching. Remember to keep those water changes up, and happy fish keeping.